Hey, good morning, folks. I'm your host, BKP. I apologize. I think the lighting, I think I have too much lighting in the room this morning. I got to do a little adjustment. I just did not have time. So sorry about that. I'm going to have to, again, adjust the lighting as the morning goes on here, first break. So there is the phone number and the social media way, all the social media ways you can follow the show. Hold on, let me get my collar. Let's see if I'm straightened out here. So, there's 3 hours of my life I cannot get back, right? Did you watch the Democrat debate last night? 12 candidates. It's so interesting that the hashtag deep state corporate corrupt media continues to turn and move this process for Democrats in the way that they would wish for it to go. Now, we have already found out, which we've known for how long now, CNN is so corrupt. They are. MSNBC is right there with them. But Project Veritas, which if you get a chance to watch, is starting to release videos that are showing just absolute corruption from CNN and right from the top, President Zucker there. Anyhow, the credibility last night. I mean, I think if we really get into saving our democracy and the crisis in this country and the obligation we have, I mean, you hear these candidates, it's our obligation. It's the Constitution. If we don't do this, anyhow, if it was all about that, why did somebody just not go? Right? Well, you got to flip a coin. The corruption of CNN and how they're deciding who the candidate will be, and the direction that the Democrat nomination for candidate to be to run on the Democrat ticket, being a part of that corruption. You would think like a candidate would say, you would say to yourself, I guess I better go. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, and I want to talk about this just for a minute, because again, that's 3 hours we will not get back in our life. Watching that last night from Ohio. But pull up number 2. Now, obviously, this did not happen. But Tulsi considers boycotting the debate, all right, Gabbard. She was on the very end. And in fact, she was on the end, and the newcomer, Steyer was one notch in. And they gave him a couple minutes, and that was it. But as you can see here on number 2, I am seriously considering boycotting October 15th debate to bring attention to the DNC corrupt media effort to rig the 2020 primary, not against Bernie this time, but against the voters in the early states like Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. So if you can, I sent an article that has that video in there. If you could get that video and play it for me, I'd appreciate it. Let's go with that.
I want to thank all of you so much for your support. I need to share something with you that's very important. There are so many of you who I've had the opportunity to meet in Iowa and New Hampshire who've expressed to me how frustrated you are that the DNC and the corporate media are essentially trying to usurp your role as voters in choosing who our Democratic nominee will be. I share your concerns, and I'm sure that all of our supporters throughout the country do as well. Now, the 2016 Democratic primary election was rigged by the DNC and their partners in the corporate media against Bernie Sanders. In this 2020 election, the DNC and the corporate media are rigging the election again, but this time it's against the American people in the early voting states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. They're attempting to replace the roles of voters in the early states using polling and other arbitrary methods, which are not transparent or democratic, and they're holding so-called debates, which really are not debates at all. but rather commercialized reality television meant to entertain rather than to inform or enlighten. So in short, the DNC and the corporate media are trying to hijack the entire election process. So in order to bring attention to this serious threat to our democracy and to ensure that your voice is heard, I'm seriously considering boycotting the next debate on October 15th. I'm going to announce my decision within the next few days, but I just want to say with my deepest and warmest aloha, thank you all again for your support.
Okay, so obviously she did not boycott the debate, but last night CNN chose to boycott her. Okay. Let me show you one other thing. And I want to get into this because that's what I find, I don't want to say most interesting. Look at number 45. Okay. So Morning Joe. All right. And the only reason I'm showing this right here is, hey, look, coming up on Morning Joe, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Kamala Harris, and Senator Amy Klobuchar. Now, where is Tulsi Gabbard this morning on MSNBC? She didn't get invited, all right? I thought last night, and I think it's interesting, and I want to talk about that a little more as the morning goes on, how, let me see, give me number, okay, give me number 8, all right? Now, number 8 here, okay, let's go with that. This was the screen for the most part last night. Now, I have to agree, I don't agree with her policies or certain comments that Tulsi Gabbard makes, but there's 2 women on the stage that, okay, when it comes to the 12 candidates, I don't know how you frame who you would vote for. So I don't know how to ask you, like, if it came down to it, who would you vote for in these 12 candidates? If these are the 12 candidates you don't have Donald J. Trump, you don't have Mitt Romney, right? You don't have any other candidate. These are the 12. The world's about to end and you have no choice but to vote for one of these 12. Or 1 or 2. Who do you pick? Now, for me, it's a coin toss between Tulsi Gabbard, okay, and Amy Klobuchar, okay? Now, if we have to sit and have, Amy Klobuchar last night, we'll get to her, said, ask Elizabeth Warren. She's asking these people, the American people want to know who gets the invoice. Exactly. Because somebody pays the bill. And that's what the American people want to know. Elizabeth Warren cannot answer. Bernie Sanders just comes right out and says, yes, I'm going to take your money and pay the bills. Okay. But look at this picture here. And not a vote has been cast. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is correct. The DNC last time picked your nominee, okay? And this time they're going to move things and take it away from the American people, the choice. So some people say, what if Mayor Pete Buttigieg wins Iowa? Has a good ground game. What if they go to New Hampshire and Elizabeth Warren wins New Hampshire, and then they go to South Carolina and Joe Biden wins South Carolina and Bernie wins nothing? What if? But keep in mind, not one vote. Now, if I'm a Democrat this morning, oh my God, there's a lot of prayers going out for you this morning if you are. But I say that just relax. If you're in the Democrat Party and you're saying it's time you make a decision on who your candidate is, you need to do what we did. And you probably don't want to hear me make suggestions, but you need to do what we did in the Republican Party. We said no. Now, here's the difference, okay? Remember those debates with Donald Trump? First of all, they were happening at a time when votes were being cast, number one. They were part of the actual primary. I mean, we're still, what, is it May of next year or not, or March or somewhere? We're still months away from a vote being cast. And was that debate number 4? And they're down to 12? Parallel this large field with the large field of Republicans and see the difference here. See how it's all been set up to lead Democrats to believe, Democrat voters to believe there's a choice. Every bit of this has been set up for you to believe that you're going to make the decision if you're a Democrat out there. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. And Tulsi Gabbard tells you that it's totally, it's the corrupt media, okay? Corporate media, she called them out, and the DNC. And last night they boycotted her big time, all right? But not one vote has been cast, and they're already changing around the front runner. Now, Elizabeth Warren is the front runner today. We heard Elizabeth. Now, Bernie almost had a second heart attack because he thought once Joe stumbled and mumbled and bumbled, and once somebody else brought out all of the corruption and scandals Joe's involved in, that he would move into that front runner spot. But he didn't. Everybody said Elizabeth last night. They're moving her into Joe's spot. I tell you every day, last night should have confirmed it. Joe Biden is done now, and he has never been a political opponent. Now, the media will use his exit when he does. Joe has money. He can stick in there and see what kind of votes he's going to get. But Joe's finished, and they will use his exit if and when it happens because of Donald Trump and Zelensky and Ukraine and a phone call. All right, we'll get to that. All right, but Bernie Sanders. Last night to me, let me say the nicest thing I possibly can and get it over with. Bernie, I am glad that you're recovering from your heart attack. I really am. Actually, Bernie, I got an ounce of respect, although I do know you're a capitalist pig, right? From the Democrat side, you're nothing but a capitalist pig wanting to sell books, and you're a multi-millionaire capitalist that you're playing a socialist role on TV and you're raking in the money. All right? But I just got a shred of respect for the fact that you do level up and say that there's going to be a bill to pay. See, when Amy Klobuchar asked you, Senator from Minnesota, who gets the invoice, you actually tell the American people who gets the invoice. Elizabeth Warren didn't tell us who gets the invoice. And last night, we're going to go into this. This is, yes, Adam Schiff is having impeachment inquiry behind closed door. Adam Schiff does not feel the American people deserve to know what's going on in the impeachment inquiry. You don't need to know. They will do the investigation. They will come out from behind closed doors and manipulate and tell you they found something, and then they will have a vote trying to impeach the president of the United States, and you don't need to see anything. There you go. That's his opinion. All right. And they're serious about it. Pelosi's moving forward. They will not have an impeachment inquiry vote, and we've talked about that. We'll go into it again. But last night, let's go with this. Give me number 54. Okay. And I never did any kind of segment on number 54. I didn't do anything on it because of I read this, I followed it, but by the time it got to where I may do a segment, I thought it was old news. It's done and over with. But last night it closed the debate. Now we will get into the fact that they did not talk climate control. We will get into the fact that they want to take your guns. We will get into the fact that they want to take your option of your health care away. They want to take it away, as you know it. And the socialist that they are. But we'll get into impeachment, all the above. But last night they closed. No immigration, no climate change, with the Ellen DeGeneres George Bush, W. Bush. Now, went to a football game, didn't go together. They were in the box. So I'm going to guess, I've not looked into this. I did not read an article. I could care less. Okay. Now, I have been given the opportunity to attend a football game in a private box. NFL. I've been given that opportunity. And I've showed up at the box not knowing who was going to be on the guest list and who would be in the box. Now, obviously, George W. Bush, the former president of the United States, knew who would be in the box. I'm going to assume this is Jerry Jones's box, it's the owner's box, and people get invited. So these two just happen to go down front and sit together and say hello to each other. And they're caught in a snapshot where they actually look like they're laughing and smiling. And that ended the Democrat debate. And the Democrats had to go on the spot to try to say they met a Republican they actually liked. We'll talk about that when we return. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show. Let me try to see if I can change the lighting in the room a little bit, and we'll be right back after these short messages.